we're gonna do iCarly style yet again. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
What's up,
Welcome back.
everybody? It's Starbound podcast with an iCarly themed introduction
Oh yeah.
because let me turn you up a little bit. Pause.
Nah, turn me up a little bit. Turn my headphones up. We back.
We had to have a special introduction today because guess what? Today is Saturday, September 16th, 2023. Some might remember that Starbound #1 dropped on September 16th, 2022, which means
This is our 1-year anniversary together as a podcast. Not just us, but the viewers. So
yeah,
I don't know what to say,
Thank you.
honestly. Like,
thank you for
that's
listening for a year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a whole year. Like, this is just in the span of time, because I feel like a lot of I don't know, a year is like a whole revolution of like so many different things, not just with the seasons, but I don't know. A year is a full completed sentence. So
Yeah.
for us to actually reach that milestone is fantastic. So thank you for watching and listening to us for a year now. Wow, I don't know what to say. That's just so crazy. That's crazy.
Well, so what I'd like to say is that this is episode 45, which means that we missed 7 weeks throughout the year. I think 45 out of 52 episodes is pretty good for a whole year of a podcast.
We missed obviously 7 weeks in total.
Well, we're 45 out of 52. So, our goal is to get to 52. So we still have some weeks to come. I think it's kind of fun that we get to sort of surpass the year mark that we were at last year. It's like a little bonus,
Yeah, no, this is the fall off, as J. Cole would say a lot. So,
Yeah. But that being said, I kind of think we should do something special since it is like the year anniversary. So
this is the 1-year anniversary. I remember we had a 1-month anniversary and that was crazy, but this is way crazier.
Exactly. Like we talked about how Starbound 30 was like a big deal for us and all that stuff. So
yeah, and then we were halfway through the year. I think we were like, "Oh my god, it's been 6 months." That's nothing compared to a year, bro. A year is crazy. Yeah, let's go back. Let's explore some of our highlights.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So I guess we should just sort of reflect back on the year, which we've reflected back on the past in many episodes here and there. But I feel like we should really just take a gulp and talk about the entire year that we've had.
Ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot of time. Yeah. Okay. Sure. You want to go first?
Sure. All right. So let's start with, I want to say that we moved to Los Angeles back in, or Sean had already been living in Los Angeles for a few years for college out there, right? So Sean had established his friends, his place, his everything, right? And that was nice.
I didn't even say that.
Yeah, that was nice because then when I moved out after, I graduated college in May 2022, I spent the summer at home, and then I think August 15th is when we took our adventure across the country, driving across the country. And that was
a long journey too. Oh my God, bro. I still have like parts of my back that I know are like, they still have moments of pain because of that trip.
Yeah.
I'm certain of it. Like my shoulder to my back, it's definitely, that trip was bad.
but it was fantastic,
but it was bad.
It was so fun. We took the southern route, which notably my favorite part of was probably the rocks in Arizona and New Mexico, as far as like views go, which we talk about all the time. In fact, I think we might have talked about a lot of this trip last episode. We talked about Amarillo and the Terminator lights and all that stuff last time. So we don't have to dive too much into the trip. But Then we got to LA. We had a little trouble moving in because like our place, we didn't have a key when we got there. It was like a Sunday or something, so everything
Oh
was
no, every
closed.
issue that we had. So we got there, we had no room. We had no, luckily I had some homies that like if we needed we
Yeah.
were in a bind, like they would help us out and they did. But yeah,
Yeah, that was super nice. That was super nice that Sean already had like friends in the area, and then his friends gave us a tour of Los Angeles. You know, we got in and out pretty early. We
word.
did all that sort of stuff. You know, went hiking here and
We
there,
hit the
and
beach.
the
All the
beach.
big LA stuff. We went to something vegan. We went to the Star Wars bar, which is really cool. It's called
Yes, scum and
Scum and
villainy.
Villainy in Hollywood. Go check it out. Yeah, we did a lot of things. A lot of things.
Yeah, and something that Sean and I have always wanted to do is a podcast together. Like we've always, I feel like we wanted to do that since how long do you think?
We definitely had ideas about it in high school, like that last 2 years, like junior year, senior year of high school. I feel like we've always thought about it, but we could never make it happen either because A, technology, B, our schedules, C, D, LMNOP. Like we have, and this isn't our first attempt, I think, at doing a podcast either. We did try one
At your
back
house?
when like Infinity War was coming out. We tried to do 2 episodes and they were pretty solid, but we just couldn't keep up with it at the time because
I think they're on YouTube.
they might be on YouTube. If you can find it, go ahead and find. I have no idea where to find it, so
I
you'd have
think
to
your
tell
mom put
me.
it up somewhere from what I remember because I remember seeing something like we reviewed Infinity War or something like that. Talked about
We were
like
reviewing Infinity
predictions.
War. We were talking about predictions for Endgame. Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. So way back in like that's 2018, 19, 2019, I think. Yes.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I no. I mean, that might have been during. No, that might have actually been our predictions for Infinity War. I don't know. Anyway, if you can find it, good job. You know what I'm saying? That's probably
Yeah, so we have tried to do this podcast before, but again, like it just that was a very life-changing time for both of us. So it was like we couldn't keep up with our lives changing and developing and doing the pod. But then
yeah.
we finally came here, despite all of our issues, and we were like, all right, we are literally living together, we're locked in. And I kind of remember we did this like facial contract between each other where it's like, all right, you're down, but I'm down, but we can only be down if we're down to do this for the long haul. So like,
Yeah.
are you down? And we were like, yeah, like we'll do this. And so we actually made it to a year, which tells me when we say we're gonna do something, we're really about it.
Yeah, I mean, also it should be said that like although we hung out all the time in high school, when I say all the time, I mean like Sean and others would always like come to my house after school and we'd play like Mario Kart and we'd like do all this stuff. So Sean was at my house like all the time in high school,
I was at your house a lot.
but we weren't living together. And I feel like to do a podcast, like living together is what really made it like possible. Although others obviously like do it when they have like a studio, they can do all this fancy stuff. Having like, you know, a year in Los Angeles where we were there every day, able to work on it together, that's what made the difference. Like, I think,
Also, our schedules became much more aligned. Where I feel like back in high school, because it was our last couple of years, we were doing ventures and all kinds of different things. So we couldn't really establish time where we could sit together. I mean, we still had classes, you know what I mean? That we're just taking up
yeah,
most of our time with like crazy homework. So when we moved in together, it was like, all right, our lives have kind of reset. You know, there's not a lot of
yeah,
class in the way right now. We literally live together. There's no barriers that we can just be like, oh, sorry, can't do it. You know what I mean?
right.
So
And it's like it's time consuming, you know, like although it was nice once we switched to live. We talked about this a little bit because it was already on YouTube versus the original audio ones that had to go through like Premiere and all that stuff. We had
yeah.
to figure out the tech of it. We had to figure out what worked, and we had to set like we set the set every day, whether it be here, whether it be in Los Angeles. We take time like before the podcast to make sure that everything looks good, the composition is nice. I mean, we're
I
film
remember
kids. We
us
have to
talking about it. when we started switching to doing video, and it was like, oh no. Instead of just jumping right into recording an episode, we have to like, do we look good? Is the set nice and everything? We thought that was gonna be a problem, but honestly, I think setting up the set was easier than just, a lot of the hassle with just the audio files.
It was so fun. I think it added an element. Yeah, it added an element of, it might sound silly, but it's like fashion, I guess. Like, not that I'm wearing anything super fashionable right now. I'm wearing like this Superman shirt and these like bright green sweatpants, but like still it's like
Word.
I guess like a lot of the time I would put a little bit more thought into my outfits. I'm like, okay, what does pop? Like what colors are kind of fun together, like all that stuff. Whereas with the like audio ones, like, we could just wake up from a nap. We could both have like messy hair and we like wouldn't really care. We just like do it.
Yeah.
It became more of a production, which I thought was really fun. And it really,
I think it is more fun. Literally right before we started this episode, I was like, oh, let me go grab my chain. This outfit's not gonna work without a chain on. And it's funny because now looking at it, it's probably taking up like 7 pixels. It's not that crazy, but I don't know. There's a lot more thought going into it being a visual experience as well as a audio experience. So also before we had a lot of issues with our there was someone downstairs right beneath us. Like there are multiple episodes where the dude's just like dunk dunk dunk. Like,
it probably sounds like we're just like the most obnoxious neighbors, but in all truth, like that guy below us was so loud, like all the time. He'd be like screaming, like at somebody, like at his roommate or something.
Yeah, he would have scream matches. Also, I think he would play video games, and he's like a rage video gamer. So
right. So we were just like what? How dare you tell us to quiet down when you're like always making like the most noise?
And he invited me into his apartment while my TV was on, so because I think he wanted me to understand his experience. And
wait, what?
I don't know if this happened while you were away. It was that period while you were out in Maryland, and I was here before like my vacation, and he came up and he knocked on my door, and I was like, "Yo, what's good?" And he just like, we were talking for a second. He was saying how he's moving out and blah blah blah. And he was like, "Yo, but I want to come show you something." I was like, "All right." So
you're like, "I'm about to get murdered,
leave the TV on." Like, yeah, I was curious. He was like, "Yeah, just leave the TV on. Like, let me show you something." I'm like, "All right, cool. Let me live his experience," because we've had a very long, year-long beef, and we barely even know each other. So I went down into his little apartment situation, and I don't know if something about our floor to ceiling is not the normal floor to ceiling with like other apartments. The sound was just leaking straight through the floor.
Oh.
So he could hear a lot of things. Like the TV I had set up here was at like, like medium volume, and you could hear everything. So
that's weird. I guess that's on the structure of the building. Although I will say that we could hear everything for him too. It's not like it was like one way.
No, it goes both ways. I remember having conversations, and I'd be having conversations and quietly, and they could still hear us, and they would be having conversations and we can still hear them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's something about the structure of it, but because the structural setup of our living space is not, the best, it created a beef between us and the people beneath us. So
yeah,
is what it is.
It's interesting. That was kind of a problem in the dorms at UMBC as well. Like, dorms are kind of built like that where you can just like hear everything. And some people are just like okay with a lot of noise. Like, I have 2 siblings, so I'm used to like just like a lot of noise most of the time. But some people, I guess, grow up in more quiet households, and so they really need their beauty sleep and such. And so,
you see, we're not gonna let that sub slide. Like you didn't just try to throw a diss at somebody.
I didn't try to throw a diss. I'm just saying
that's a lie. They can check the live right now and be like, nah, this man was clearly throwing subs at somebody.
You mean at our neighbors that were below us? I mean, yeah, you're right. I'm sure they're dedicated fans, and they were like, wow, because they could, if they watched it back, they'd be like, oh, look at our feature in the podcast. We're getting yelled at in the middle of this.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, it's like you basically said there are pansies in the world that can't handle a little bit of noise because they think they live in a world that's just them by themselves.
Okay,
when really we're in a shared world together.
In my mouth, Sean loves putting words in my mouth. I do not.
Is that not what he basically? That's basically what you said, bro.
Oh, so now it's changed to that's what he basically said. See, because originally he said you said. And now
you're that's what you basically. No, that's what you. That's what you said.
The next step is you didn't really say that. So anyway, what I did say was that I have 2 siblings, so it would be loud in the household sometimes, right? But some people, that might not, or honestly, maybe they do have siblings and they just run a quieter household. They like quiet sleep. You know what I'm saying? But I'm used to sleeping through music, through chatting. Through a lot. And I feel like genetically, this is also probably a genetic thing. Like I'm a deep sleeper and so are my siblings for the most part. And so I feel like if you're a light sleeper, then maybe for example, you'd have a quiet.
That's his political answer. What he really meant to say is, look, man, back when I was a child, I'm from them war zones. All I hear every night, bah, 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 bah. It was terrible. It was horrible. I have nightmares. Meanwhile, some of y'all pansies out here, all y'all, and you sleep on a fucking cloud as if nobody's fucking there. Me, nah, I'm from the trenches. That's what he really said. That's what you really said.
Yeah, remind me if I ever want like a biography, like an autobiography written. Wait, is an autobiography the one that's like written by yourself, or is that the one that's written by somebody else?
An autobiography is written, I think it's written by somebody else.
Whichever one is written by somebody else, remind me that I definitely don't want you writing it.
I'll make it interesting. No, man, if I wrote it, it's gonna be the bestseller. I already know. That would be a mistake. That's all I'm saying, bro.
Sean loves twisting my words. Sean's gonna be like, "Oh yeah," and then he said this, and he said this. He was roasting.
I don't want to say twisting. I just like to say enhancing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like it's the same point, but I'm just driving it further home. You know what I mean?
Oh no, Sean doesn't just like driving it home. Sean likes taking a steam engine train and slamming it home.
Plowing that motherfucker. Analogy. That's right. Plow it.
Yeah, you like to plow at home. There you go. Like you like to snow plow at home.
Yeah, snow plow. Anyway, yeah, I feel like he's been, first of all, I think that original person is gone. I think I've seen someone new move in, and this guy's a lot more peaceful. I love him. If you can hear me, I know you can. I love you. You're a great neighbor. I actually do try to look out for him and try not to be loud after a certain period of time, just because this guy's way more like understanding. So yeah, I like this guy. I like this guy.
Dude, speaking of neighbors, I just read this play called The Zoo, right? So spoilers for The Zoo by, I want to say his name's like Edward Albee. Yeah.
Is it like We Bought a Zoo?
No, I don't think so.
No, never mind.
That movie is Leonardo DiCaprio. That's a while ago, isn't it?
I thought that was Mark Wahlberg. We Bought a Zoo?
Maybe. I think it's Leo DiCaprio. I might be wrong though.
It's anyway, one of those white guys.
Oh, by the way, in this play, I literally took a photo because they say neither hither nor thither.
Oh, it's a real thing. Wow. I'm shocked.
It's a real thing. So yeah.
I'm shocked. You said that
this is like the second
3 episodes ago. Like, yo. Neither nor hither, thither nor nither. What?
Hither nor thither. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, in the play, there like this guy, he's like from this like poorer part of town, right? And he's kind of awkward. He doesn't have many friends. He doesn't have like a girlfriend. He's very socially awkward. And so
he's a loser.
Like, just kind of see, look at this. This man loves twisting my words.
That was me TMZing. I was TMZing right there. I'm not gonna lie.
Anyway, he shows up to like this richer part of town and like sees this guy on a park bench, and it's a 2-person play, and he just starts like talking to him. And he learns a bit about this person, that the rich guy is like married and he has like 2 kids and all this stuff. And he basically wants to tell him the story. At first the guy on the bench is like scared, like, who is this man? But then they chat and it ends up being all right. Anyway, in the story, he eventually tells him the story of like why he was headed towards the zoo. Okay. And the reason that he was headed towards the zoo had to do with this entire backstory of how in his like apartment building, he didn't really know anyone. He like heard his neighbors like crying every once in a while. He knew that the landlady always like flirted with him, and he knew that this dog who like belonged to the landlady would always try to like attack him like every time he walked into the apartment. Like the dog wouldn't attack him when he like left the apartment, but he'd attack him when he walked in. So it's like the dog was like okay with him leaving, but not with him arriving, basically. And so he didn't really have any friends, so he wanted to become friends with his dog. And because he was just curious, like, why does this dog hate me so much? So he went and he bought like burgers, like raw beef and stuff, and would just like give it to the dog. And the dog would like smile, eat the beef, and then continue barking and trying to attack him, right? And he's like, what's going on here? So he's just telling this guy the story, and it's just this like insanely long monologue. And he's like, basically, then I was like, all right, I gotta poison the dog. And so he like goes and he gets poison. Yeah, and he like puts it in like with the patty, and he tries to poison the dog. And it doesn't work, but the dog is like sick for a while, basically. And then he starts kind of like missing the dog and stuff like that. And he regrets like kind of doing it.
Yo,
and
what is this toxic relationship, bro?
It's so weird. And the guy on the bench, meanwhile, I was like, what? Like, what is going on? Like, what the fuck?
What
Who is
is
this guy?
going
Why
on?
is
I don't understand.
right? And eventually the dog recovers, and then since then, they kind of didn't like the dog wouldn't really bark at him. They just go about their way, right? And the point, I guess, being that I don't know. I guess the point being that it was a relationship nonetheless. Like you have to start somewhere, right? And like so he was trying to explain like himself and his life to this guy on this park bench. And essentially the reason he was going to the zoo was so that he could, I guess, like learn more about animals and the relationship between animals and humans. But then he starts, like trying to push the dude off of the park bench, like shove him off. And the guy's like, what the heck? This is my park bench. And he's like, get off it. I want it. Like, I want the park bench. I want the park bench. And he ends up like giving the dude, like the rich guy,
poison.
Basically, he pulled like the guy who, poisoned the dog. He pulls out this knife. And like he was being friendly before, but he pulls out this knife, and the rich guy's like, what the heck? What's going on? And he throws him the knife, and he's like, you're going to have to fight for this bench. And he's like, no, I don't want to fight for this bench. He's like, it sounds like you want to fight for the bench. It sounds like the bench is like what you want in life, basically. So fight for it. And he's like, no, I'm not going to fight for it. And so basically, the guy runs at him, right? But the rich guy's just like holding the knife. So he runs into the knife, like his own knife that he gave the rich guy, and he just like dies. But he's not trying to get the rich guy arrested. He's basically like, good job, like you acted on your animal instincts, and now you better run. Like, I'll wipe away the fingerprints on this knife, like so like goodbye. And I guess he was just trying to show like the rich dude that like at the end of the day, like although animals may be locked up in cages, like humans are animals too. So like I guess he was trying to say that, I don't even know. It was so interesting. And I know this has like nothing to do with our neighbor downstairs, but if you think about it like that, it's like all animals have their ways of interacting, right? So like humans also have their way of interacting. So it's kind of interesting thinking about it like that.
That's
like,
actually, what's funny? I get what he's trying to say. It's kind of like the Joker's thesis on Gotham that, at the end of the day, we are all, to our root, just like these sick animals that are just doing whatever we have to do to either survive or to get what we want. And it's just, but the way this guy, like, I can imagine being this rich person and then, like, you get a knife off of such a simple situation. Guy runs into it, gets stabbed, and he's like, "All right, run away now. Look, I proved my point that we're all animals." And like,
that's what
I'm just standing there being like, "Yo, what the fuck just happened?" Like,
dude, it was.
I'm gonna just tell the cops what happened when they show up. Like, what the fuck just happened?
It was well written. It was. I guess it was kind of arguing that, like, in this sort of high noble society, people lose track of the fact that they are still animals at heart. Like, humans are animals. And then, like, this guy comes from, like, the poorer part of town where, he has to, I guess, defend himself against this dog every day. Like, yeah. And so I think he was, arguing that, like, we're not so different, basically, which kind of reminds me of how I was talking about Mistborn last time. And like, they're all like the Ska are the quote unquote peasants that are treated like shit. They're like forced into slavery. And then the noblemen are these like rich people that have all the land and all that shit. And they're both humans, but the noblemen have convinced, or like, the king guy, the lord ruler, has convinced everyone that the Ska are like lesser, like, species, a different species than the noblemen.
That's what happened actually with Native Americans when the Europeans showed up, or not even the Europeans, after the Europeans showed up, and then the Americans kind of took hold. There was a lot of conversations like that. Give me a second. I got to figure out, my AirPods are dying, so I'm gonna have to switch to headphones actually. I think I should.
Okay, you go do that, and I'll have another.
Give me a second. Only podcast. Sort of Kevin only podcast.
Anyway, yeah, last time you had a 30-minute Kevin only podcast, so I don't think you need that long anymore. But that being said, yeah, I think both of the stories are sort of obviously playing on history and like sort of rich versus poor and all that stuff, which is pretty interesting. One of the things that I did notice about Los Angeles, and I think I've talked about this in the past, but is that obviously in every city, the classism is pretty bad. But in Los Angeles, it was awful. It was like, you go to Beverly Hills and they talk about, places like downtown, and they're like, you got to get out of there. Like, they even do that in Burbank. And it's very frustrating. And there's not like a bus system that goes from the top of like Santa Monica to Venice, because they don't want people, like homeless people, going, like spreading out. So they literally have it like structured so that it's bad. Now, I think they're building a few more metro lines to try and make it better, but I think it's important to point out, I know that stuff exists in DC too, and other, like, all cities all around the country. It's just I wish there was more an effort to do that. And I think because DC is like the political capital, at least it has some things getting better here and there, but it almost feels like word doesn't spread across the country sometimes. Like, it doesn't spread to the West Coast, which is very frustrating.
Yeah, they just built, they didn't build a new line, but they extended the Expo line along with a few other lines connecting more of the city. So now you can get from one end of Los Angeles all the way to East LA, which is super, like, they should have done that beforehand. But I think, I don't know, something about Los Angeles in particular, that we're only getting to a lot of these forward thinking ideas now instead of years ago, decades ago. So, but things are, I think, slowly, at least in terms of transportation, there have been improvements and a lot of different projects in place. It's just enacting these projects will take decades.
Decades. And I think so. And that, I mean, getting back to anyway our sort of experience in Los Angeles, I thought it was cool to bring up that play and that sort of analogy, just as like the overall structure of our time there. Sorry, the zoo is what I was talking about.
Oh, right,
I was
right.
just making that analogy because I'm like, so if we're going back to like towards our year in Los Angeles, all of this is under the pretense that that is kind of how the city is structured. You know, five skylines. We've talked about this a lot. Some sort of more like north are kind of like these sort of upper class, sort of like high society type of places, and then a little bit more
Word.
south, it's sort of, you know, I guess lower class people. A lot of struggling actors trying to afford like apartments in the city and
I've met a
such.
lot
Like
of
that's kind of
struggling
how it
actors,
feels,
man. There's a
right?
lot of actors here. There's a lot of actors here. Yeah, it's exactly as you said. I feel there's the higher class people, which is more in the north. The middle is some of the more poor areas, and sometimes even the poorest areas. Honestly, it was funny. I feel like the north of the rich north is like this thin line that kind of like outlines the top of Los Angeles, but there's a whole like the most of Los Angeles is just like poor areas.
Yeah, yeah. And
Just
this,
areas that are not getting a lot of attention,
right.
not getting a lot of support, both financially and just like I feel like even politically. Honestly, some of these places are just ignored. You know, like Compton was for like
Yeah.
X amount of years, and it became what it was. Although it's a lot better now, from what I hear.
Not to mention, though, like locals are frequently being kicked out of homes because colleges and stuff are buying up the space and like evicting people, and like prices are rising and all that stuff, which again, happening in every city. But I noticed it a lot in Los Angeles. Um,
Yeah, the
that being
village
said,
used to be the USC village used to be like just a normal shopping area for locals, and then USC bought it and turned into like the USC village, and then the prices went up. So,
yeah,
you know, it is what it is.
yep. Anyway, so where do you want to take it from there? I sort of gave the rundown of like when we first got there and now the sort of structure of it, but what do you think is like the next like notable points as far as our
There's
time's
a
going
lot of
on?
different notable points. I don't know. I feel like personally, I went through a lot of creative changes in the span of a year. So when we started the podcast, I was working on music, and I was working on music that was centered on this theme of loneliness and the fact that I felt so alone. Yes, during COVID, but even a little bit after COVID, like I was to myself a lot. I was in a living space by myself, and
Before I
so
got there.
before you got there, right? So I was working on the album to reflect my emotions, and it was just kind of like this dark place I was, you know, not that I was not trying to get myself out of, but I don't know, I was succumbing to it, this darker place in my mind. And then finally I live with you, and that feeling starts to subside, but I still gotta finish the album. So um there were some songs I felt iffy and insecure about. There's some songs I was like about. I remember I tried to bring you on one of those songs. And the first time that you try to like record for it, you're like, yo, this is too dark, man. I gotta pull out. Like, I gotta pull
For
out.
a
I
second,
gotta
I still recorded the verse, but I was like, I need, yeah, yeah, I was like, I need a break.
Oh no, you dogged it later, but that first session was like it was hard to get through. It's a lot of, you know, the darkest, loneliest parts of your brain coming to the forefront to say something. So it was hard. But we
Yeah.
did tough through it. Not only did you give a great verse, I think it's one of your best verses ever.
Hey, thank
You
you,
know what I
bro.
mean? I think a lot of your
Not only did
verses
you give a great
before
album,
that's what I say. I think it's a great project all in all. So it was kind of like the period on that point of my life of just being lonely and it being dark and everything and da da da. And now that's over, I can see like my creativity start to change. So instead of being so interested in music and hip hop and like how can I do this creatively with my music? Like I was done with music. I just did a whole album. I don't want to do that again. Um, um, I saw my inspiration for film start to flourish again, and there was definitely a period after, you know, I was at a certain school and was hanging around certain people that my love for film was decreasing. I couldn't really find inspiration again. But now that I had this album drop and did all this, my creativity in the film world has just rapidly increased. I have so many ideas. I meet people now where it's like, I don't know, they think of an idea that they want to do, and I can just like on the spot, like come up with the way the story should work and the structure. Like I'm a lot better creatively because I just did that album where it was solely based off of just my emotion and not just any, prejudice or presumptuous notion that I had. So, yeah, I would say I had a creative revolution, and I'm working on shooting a short film this weekend. Also a couple other weekends. I'll be coming over to Maryland to shoot some more of it over there. But I am shooting a new short film, and I have I should mention this because this is kind of a cool moment in Starbound history. The 48-hour screenwriting challenge.
Oh yeah,
where I write an entire
I remember when
feature.
you were working at that. Yeah. Here, wait, you go tell about this. I actually gotta go blow my nose real quick, so you go ahead.
Okay, have fun blowing your nose while I tell the story. I mean, if you were here and watched that episode, you already know. But basically, I found this challenge on YouTube where you have to write an entire feature-length film in 48 hours. And at first you're like, what? Like, that's hundreds of pages. Like, why would you do that in you can't even do that in 2 days. But the message of doing that challenge was you need to get your ideas out of your head before you start judging it, feeling like it's not good enough. You wait around for inspiration. You have to put pen to paper, because although your ideas might seem like they're super cool and fantastic and all that, they're not really real until you put it in the physical world, right? Your mind is not the physical world. It's an abstract world. It might seem cool there, and if we never see it kind of substantiate, you'll never be able to push it to the next level. So I spent a week doing prep. I don't know. You can't really see the board from here, but I had a bunch of like story arc, character arc circles, plotting out plot points, stuff like that. And then I finally got to writing it. And I mean, you could probably speak to this, Kevin, but those 2 days I was locked in. Mm-hmm. I wasn't leaving my room. I woke up, got to my computer, the whole day. And then I would step out for like either to eat something or take a walk really quickly. Then I go to bed, wake up the next day, get straight back to it. And because I don't know, usually when you think about writing something, when you want to write something with no time constraints, so you can have the maximum time to make it perfect and all this. But when you have maximum time, it makes you do less. So I think if I didn't have that timer on that 48-hour draft, I wouldn't have been able to do it for the entire, because I was doing it the whole day.
Yeah.
The entire day. And it wouldn't cross my mind that, oh no, it's taking forever. Like I didn't really think about it in that way. I was just like, I was breezing through it. I was like, just like, gotta get these words in, gotta put these pages down, gotta do this with that character, yada, yada. I was just going. So I think, oddly enough, with a time constraint, you can actually get a lot more done than if you have no time constraint. You just think, oh, I have all the time in the world to just do this.
I agree. I agree. And yeah, as far as my sort of artistic journey goes, since Los Angeles, I know you had, Sean was finishing up the album and then started diving into like a lot of film stuff. Mine was kind of like this. Basically when I was fortunate. So back in the day, this is like probably like 2019 or something, when Incredibles 2 came out. I watched it, and some of you may know that my favorite movie of all time is The Incredibles, or it's top 2, if not 1. And so I wrote this script for Incredibles 3 because I didn't want to wait like 14 years for Incredibles 2 to come out. I just like wrote it for fun. And then I decided, because I'd done like Lego stop motion in the past, to make it like a stop motion Lego Incredibles. And I had this script written, And I had in like I think in 2020, it was like when COVID happened. I was like, all right, let's actually start doing this. And over that summer, I recorded like everybody's audio like immediately. And I didn't really get to work on it throughout college because I was like super busy with like film projects. It was really like a passion project that I really thought would be cool if I got like all my friends to voice characters and stuff like that. So yeah, I got everybody, Sean included. Um, and
It was like the
basically, then
Avengers of our little circle.
oh, go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
I was just saying that it was like the Avengers of our little circle. Like we were just getting we
You're
got
freezing up
everybody,
like
I feel
crazy for
like.
me.
Oh really? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Is it the internet? I have two Wi-Fis right now, and
Yeah,
one of them sometimes works great, and then the other one will not work great. And depending on which one is which, it depends on the
there we
day.
go.
So
Okay, okay.
it's good.
What'd you say though?
I was just saying that like I feel like you assembled the Avengers of our little circle and you got everybody that we knew to
Yeah,
do it.
it was really
So
fun. I wanted something that like everybody was in that was like I thought it'd be cool. And so anyway, I was doing a bunch of other film and all this stuff, just constant college courses so I could get my two minors and major in. And then for my senior project, I was able to do like The Incredibles. Like I was able to like for my class. And
that's cool.
I was like, this is a time constraint that I am happy like now I can get it done. So I animated it during my senior year of college and got college credit for it, which I thought was awesome. And then when I moved out to Los Angeles, one of my first goals was to continue working on it. And I animated part 2 while we were out there, but at the same time, that's like a passion project, and I knew that that wasn't necessarily going to get me going in Los Angeles as far as like acting goes, and as far as film goes. It would like look good on like a demo reel, but it wouldn't be something like crazy on the resume or
It was
something
more
like
of like
that.
a passion project than a career move.
Exactly, so that's when I
So
sort of signed up for backstage, started going on sets with Sean, and we started like doing this whole thing. And that's when I kind of realized that film sets are like very different than they were back home. Like, when Sean and I would film our projects in high school and college, if I wasn't like acting in the shot, I was holding the boom mic and stuff like that. And I kind of like the constant running around. But in like LA, I think we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but you're usually filming in a warehouse first of all, so you can't like free reign film like guerrilla filmmaking like you can in Maryland, because there's like not really many laws about it in Maryland. There's a bunch in LA, as well as like there's
yeah, LA is locked up, man. You can't do anything. Well, it depends on if you can hide it really well. But LA is a lot more strict about filming. You can't just film on any street anywhere. You will get busted.
Yeah, as well as there's kind of like so many jobs on a film set that if you're like a production assistant and you've done this or that, you have so much extra downtime that feels almost like unnecessary. You're just like, okay, now what? And I like staying busy. I like staying busy. I like doing this, doing that. So that was interesting, and I started going to a lot of theater shows because I was like I miss theater and I want to see shows again. And that's when I really realized that theater was like sort of more so the path that I wanted to take in life. And
Mm.
yeah, that had a lot to do with my LA time winding down, as well as the actors strike and all this other stuff. But it should be noted
Yeah,
though,
the industry right now is in shambles. Is
yeah,
the opportunities are not the same as it was when we started.
yeah. It should be noted though, like artistically, I think it also switched. So I did a lot of animating of Incredibles 2 for part 2, or sorry,
Mm.
Incredibles 3 part 2. And then I got in a car crash, which I've talked about before. And that really changed my motivations, like everything. And that's when Sean like asked me to do the verse, I think, for Leaving Saturn. And I was just like, I was down in the
Right.
dumps. I like really was like not feeling great. I was anxious, stressed, worried, didn't know the next step. And I started writing the verse, and I was just like, Sean, this is too much. Like, I need to take a break. So I did. I eventually wrote the verse. I was happy with how it came out. And that's when I sort of started being like, okay, I was low, I was scared. I was like, what do I really want out of life? And that's when I, started doing the exploration of like film versus theater. I still love film. I would still do film here and there. But my number one thing is sorry. Um my number one thing is theater. And I feel like I realized that because of this sort of like life changing event. I mean, life changing in the sense of like mentally, not physically. Luckily, I was okay. Um, but yeah, and so The Incredibles 3 Part 1 though is on YouTube if you do want to go watch it. It's
Part 1 is on YouTube. I have not everyone has seen it, but I have seen clips of Part 2 that also looks pretty fire. Actually, I might have seen almost the full version of Part 2.
Yeah, Part 2 is almost done. Again, it's a passion project, so it's something that I can only do in like free time, which my life's starting to get a lot busier, so my free time's starting to get a lot less frequent, but I do intend to get it out hopefully by the end of this year. I'm very proud of the first one and how it ended up. And I'm sort of, setting up my roots here, but it's going well. I'm having a great time. And yeah, so where should we go? I mean,
I think you switched honestly at a great time because there's not like the industry's really do anything right now anyway. That's a funny point that you made about film. Film is the type of work where when you're working, you are double, triple time working. You don't have enough hands. You're super busy. You're stressed out. You're tired physically. But then the moment that your job is done in one area, and then you just have to sit and wait until you're called upon again, you have the most downtime in the world. You're just waiting there, you're sitting, you're trying to pay attention to the shots so you can think about like, all right, what do I need to do next? But it's like a horrible, horrible up and high and low of, oh, I'm too busy to, oh, I feel like I'm just kind of sitting here waiting until they need me again for the next thing. And it doesn't change when you go up the scale. I mean, I haven't yet been on the biggest like Disney productions yet, but I have seen how a feature film, like a studio backed feature film looks, and same thing, and if other than like your key roles, obviously like director and assistant director, DP, other than like some of those really high up roles, it's basically like when you're needed, you're super needed. And then when you're not needed, be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, be gone.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Yeah, and there's kind of like production assistant is kind of like the one job that you can start at almost. Like everything else is like you got to kind of like work your way up from production assistant basically.
Yeah, everyone says be a PA first. I think you do need a level of like what's it called? Experience. Just to get into that, like, okay, how does a set work? What can I do in my role? Who can I talk to make connections? But I also want to express this. Film recently has become an industry, a lot like any of the other industries, where you don't just climb up the ladder. It's not like you go from PA to sound person to, it doesn't really work like that. It works more like buzz, right? Do people know you for doing good at this job here? Do people know you for doing good at this job there? Do you have this film that just came out and it made a bunch of either money or it got really popular in the scene, so people are looking for you now? It's all based on buzz, really. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say that you could end up being a PA your whole life, but if you don't make a move personally for yourself, like, I feel like you have to be a PA, make connections, and then make your own movie, or ask if people are doing other projects and tell them about your talents and other skill set. because if you just like wait around, you can be a PA for I feel like the rest of your life.
You gotta
PA is a
make
starting
moves.
point.
You gotta make moves. You kind of gotta get your name buzzing. A lot of the way that is done is through social media. And I did have people like I yeah, I can say this. I doubt what somebody I met randomly, but was I knew kind of. I was like, "Hey, you want to film this TikTok with me just for fun?" Like I was just trying to film a TikTok, and he's like, "What's your number
Mhm.
looking like?" So I thought he meant my phone number. I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then he's like, "Nah, nah," and he he pulls up his TikTok and shows me his follower count. And I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "This is actually how Los Angeles is." Like it's really about your name buzzing. Like the game is not only just show and nowadays I got to talk with a bunch of improv artists that have been doing it for a long time in Los Angeles, which was awesome. They were all really cool. They told me
Mhm.
that they haven't been to an in-person audition since COVID. And like
Dang.
like acting in front of a camera, like as if you've tried like film and theater, is not the same as acting in front of an audience. It's not the same.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was in the seminar for the strike, and that was one of the things that SAG is fighting for, where they want to go back to in person auditions across the board, not just even the highest level up, the Disney style, like all like the big money people, they're asking for people to just send in tapes instead of actually holding auditions. So it's the industry's crazy right now.
The subtlety of movement in film is like so different than the sort of like big expressive movements in that you need in theater. So it's just like it's a different game. Like obviously there's a lot of similarities in film and theater. There really are. Like how are you going to have the set? You know, there's acting, there's this, there's that. And I love both mediums. The one is not better than the other. You know what I'm saying? It's just personal
Mhm.
preference. It's like what you like more. But I really am so happy that I got the opportunity to live in Los Angeles for a year because I would not have come to these conclusions had I had like a few less life events occur during that time. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I think your LA experience was definitely it was I don't know how to describe it. It was significant in forming your identity because I feel like before LA there were a lot of questions about like who are you as a person and what do you want to do, and although I still feel like you have a very wide range of that, it's not as wide as it used to be. I think you've now narrowed into things that you do truly like love.
I agree. I
So
agree. And that's something that like you couldn't necessarily do, you know, unless you had time to explore that. And so I definitely think like if you're able to take the time, if you're able to have like I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity that
I'm
I
gonna
was
take
able to
another
do that.
break here. My phone's about to die.
Oh,
Give me
so
a second.
another Kevin only podcast.
Another Kevin. I'll just hold it down for a couple seconds. I was trying to figure this out.
Yeah, all I was saying is like I think it's always a good idea to be able to go out and explore, maybe live on your own for a little bit outside of college if you are able, because it's a way to like you know learn a lot about yourself and um, yeah, but you got to enjoy that time. There was many times in LA where I was like, you know, I feel like this might not be my sort of base of operations for very long, but I'm going to enjoy this nice weather, this easy access to the beach, this easy access to the mountains and all that stuff while I'm here. And I recall, you know, um, I've talked about how like because of my car crash, I then was like skateboarding around to get places, which also made it difficult to do like backstage and all that stuff because on a whim's notice they'll be like, "Hey, can you travel 2 hours?" But I remember like skateboarding through the street in like our local area and being like, "Wow, like this is beautiful. This weather is so nice. These trees are so nice." And I feel like that's how you can really appreciate your surroundings and like live in the present. Like that's how you do it. So yeah, I think that's important. Um, what else can I say about it? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, if I take you through different parts of the year, you know, oh, Sean hung up on me. All right, let me turn off. Oh no, do not disturb is off. Okay, cool. Because last time, I had a little too long of a Kevin only podcast. All right. Sean is not on do not disturb. So, this is only if you watched the last episode. Sean is not on do not disturb. So I will not be giving a 30-minute Kevin only podcast today, hopefully, unless Sean, his phone wasn't charged or something like that. Oh, wait. What was that notification? No, it wasn't Sean. Okay. Anyway, in the meantime, I was getting ready to give another 30-minute Kevin only podcast. Here, wait, give me a second.
Yeah, my V. At least you answered this time. He answered. Sorry, y'all. Literally everything's dying on me. My AirPods are dying. My phone is dying. Everything's just, it's rough out here, but we'll hold it together.
We're all in this together,
We are all in this together. Let me see. It's literally like I charged my AirPods. I took that charger and now I'm charging my phone. When it literally died. So we're gonna see if FaceTime kills power faster than it takes time to charge the phone. Because we're riding the edge right now.
That's the whole point of this episode is to test that theory.
Yep, that's the whole entire point of this episode, not to commemorate the fact that we did this for an entire year, which is still crazy. We had a lot of changes, I guess, all around. I feel you kind of narrowing into who you are as a person, me expanding who I am as a person, where I feel like I was a lot more rigid on who I was before the year started and what I can do, but after that, I was like, wait, I can also do this. I can explore into that. Even my school has allowed me to explore things I haven't really explored before. So, just a lot of development. This has been a really interesting development phase. You know what I mean? 20s. Am I right?
I know. I feel like, yeah, I've said this before, but I've always wondered what, by the way, for those of you wondering, that was my dad that just walked in. So that was my dad's first official appearance on the podcast.
What up, Dad?
Oh, well, he went back upstairs now, but that was my father. So he might have made an audio appearance once. I know Jay's made an audio appearance once.
Ja.
A physical appearance once, but we had to can that episode, unfortunately.
We did have to can that episode. That's unfortunate. We gotta get Jay on one of these episodes, bro.
What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. I've said this before, but I always wondered what 23 to 28-year-olds do, because I was like, that's such a weird gap in life, and you just gotta figure it out. And it's different for everyone, because a lot of the times there's just school, and when you finally just are thrown in the trenches of what's next, there's no guidebook. Everybody gets to their spot one way or another way. There's no one path. But you do your research here and there. You talk to who you need to talk to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just to add on to that point, I feel like we got used to the idea of grade school when we were kids, and that everyone's life path had structure, right? We were told to do this. We come here every day and we do this and we do it all together and da 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 da. We're all on very much the same path, which is important for development as children. But as we become adults, there is no structure on what happens next. Things can happen to you that you would have never expected or guessed. You could also do things that you never thought you were capable of. That's one thing I've learned about this particular phase in life. There are no certainties. There's nothing. There's no school to tell you this is what you do next. Everything is just life. It's just as life goes. You pick a direction. It may work out for you. It may not, but it led you to a certain point to get you to the next point. So, instead of, I know some people are afraid of that. They're like, oh my God, I need some level of certainty, because I do get that the uncertainty of life can bring anxiety, but I feel like people should also take, what's the word?
Solace.
People should also take solace. Yes, that's it. Solace. People should take solace in the fact that there is no certainty in life, because that means that if you're in a bad situation or if you're not sure of where you're going next, that's not forever. That's not going to be forever.
Yeah.
You can always pick a certain path or a certain thing to do in life. And whether you make it to that destination or not, you're moving, right? That movement is what life really is. So there's different things to appreciate as you become an adult.
Yeah. And I know Sean and I don't usually, I mean, we have, but I know we don't usually get super personal on the podcast. But I hope it has at least been clear over the past year that there are ups and downs. And it's not like it was smooth sailing for us. There's a lot of crazy stuff that went on like throughout the episodes. I'd be curious to know how much of that seemed apparent in our like attitudes throughout. You know what I'm saying? Like I have no idea. But I feel like
we got a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but we don't, we try to keep the podcast fun for y'all. But even when we don't tell people everything, I feel like it's very obvious that there are episodes where we're at our highest, there are episodes where we're at our lowest.
Yes.
Like when we fought each other that one episode, man.
That was the highest. No.
that was the
people liked that one though.
A high point for the audience, a low point for us.
Yeah. Seriously.
People liked it so much. I would go into my day-to-day life and people would come to me and be like, "You're a serial capper." And they still tell me that to this day.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
To this day, I'm a serial. That's why I realized the power of the podcast, bro. It's like when people get latched onto something, they'll just put that on you for the rest of your life, bro. I still hear serial capper. I'm not a serial capper.
Remember how you were screwing up my words earlier? I feel like that's a point about how you are a serial capper, unfortunately.
A serial exaggerator, I'll accept.
It doesn't roll off.
A serial enhancer
as much.
Like milk. I'm a serial enhancer.
Okay.
So
something. I would say what is like the opposite of enhance? Like dehance? I don't think dehance is
a dehance.
Then again, like hither nor thither is a thing, so maybe dehance is a thing.
Can you unenhance? Can you rehance? I don't know, bro. You get it. You get the point.
Yeah.
Unhancing.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. But I think I'm an enhance. Anyway, that fight was really bad, bro, because looking back, I realized I might have insulted you and I didn't intend to. And so I already apologized for that shit. So you're not going to get another one. But
it's okay.
I'll admit sometimes I'll be going off and I don't realize how it comes off.
I accept your apology. Here's the thing. I was unnecessarily I had so much beef with Drake. There's just like a huge portion of Drake's fans. Like he's especially known to have a lot of haters just because people think he's overrated. But like every like huge artist is gonna have people that think that. You know what I'm saying? But then if you just like stop caring that they are so popular and you just like start listening, you're like, oh, I can see why people like them. And I think he has a few bangers. I don't think he's like top, blank for me. But now, see, this is character growth. I'll like queue up Nice for What. I'll queue up Passion Fruit. I'll queue up like In the Morning. I'll queue up Forever and Over. Those ones I was already bumping. So look, Sean, character growth. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe it needed to be said. That's what I'm trying to say.
Maybe it needed to be said. That's true. That was it. It wasn't about Drake though. Was it about Drake?
It was. I think it was about Drake. I think it literally was about Drake.
It might have been about Drake. I think I was trying to make a bigger point about like haters in general, but our specific example is always Drake.
It's always about Drake. Anyway, I'm gonna go refill my tea. So entertain.
I'll go ahead. I'll continue to talk about this beef. But yeah, out of that, just like Kevin was saying, we both have gone through a lot of growing together as we got to kind of experience each other's worlds. Kevin is not so much a large hater of Drake. I think it's because this is my personal opinion. He doesn't have to believe in this or not, But I think that the truth was he never really was a big hater. He's not a Drake hater. He just wasn't the biggest lover. And I think, when we see a lot of love for something, we like to hate on that. I do it too sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I'll see something get a lot of love and I'll be like, that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
I do like that, man. People,
his growth isn't I feel like your growth had nothing really to do with Drake and everything to do with your perspective on the world, where it's like, do other people's opinions matter? No.
That's an oversimplification, I think. But here's what I'll say. A lot of the time,
I'll take that.
A lot of the time, I feel like we let other people's opinions, like random people, whether it be random comments on your YouTube, your TikTok, your Instagram, whatever, affect our lives on a day-to-day basis, worrying about whether people like you, if you're well liked in the court of public opinion. Like, what is the court of public opinion? Okay. Like, if you see X amount of people per day and you get along and enjoy the same amount, obviously there's going to be one or two people here and there that you might have a quarrel with. Like, the court of public opinion doesn't even really matter. Like, just enjoy, the day that you're having, try to surround yourself with people that you like. Let me put my phone back on do not disturb now that you're back.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, it's like I think people worry too much about being like liked by everyone, that sometimes it's like an ego crush is kind of necessary for the betterment of one's well-being in the long term. Like, it's okay to not be perfect in everyone's eyes. In fact, being imperfect is perfect. Like, we're meant to be imperfect. So like, being like normal is like so subjective. And like, if somebody was normal, what does that even mean? Like, if you've seen the SpongeBob episode where there's like normal Squidward and he's just like weird, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like the concept of normal, like nobody's normal. Yes, we have our differences here and there. And I know some people are like, my life would be so much better if I didn't have this or if I didn't have that to deal with. But like, we're all dealing with our own shit. It's not a competition. Just do your best. That's all you can do. Try to enjoy yourself. Try to enjoy the people around you. And I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I think it's a mighty place to start, man. Mighty place to start. Speaking of that, I know I feel like we've been talking Uber serious for a good second here. I just wanted to add a quick little fun note. I've picked up several beefs in the span of this podcast. I'd like to share some of them right now. Spirit Airlines. Fuck you.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Not a fan. Adobe. I'm mixed on you.
Yeah.
I'm mixed because sometimes you are the best tool I've ever had in my arsenal. You know what I mean? I whip out Adobe, no problem. I get you done. Other times, you are the biggest flaming piece of shit I've ever had to deal with. So, semi-fuck you. Like, fuck you with an asterisk. It's like, if you do right by me, I'll do right by you and unfuck you.
I agree. Adobe is one of the most frustrating ones, but it's good. I mean, like, Photoshop is great, but if I get one more notification that my scratch disk is full, I'm going to chuck my laptop out a window, and I don't care if there's a pedestrian walking by.
You know how bad it is when, like, you just want to hurt something so bad and you don't care who gets hurt in the middle of that? Like, it gets bad, bro. Adobe, I've recently been using one of their competitors, DaVinci Resolve.
Oh, I use DaVinci for color correction.
DaVinci is one of the best for color correction. That's the thing. It's like, I'm not the biggest. The way that DaVinci works is not fully lined up with my brain. I think I'm still an Adobe brain, but I'm not gonna lie. DaVinci doesn't crash every 2 seconds.
Exactly.
You don't.
Yep, and it's better.
I think I might have had 2 to 3 crashes my whole life.
Adobe's color wheel is not great. Like, DaVinci's is way better. So yeah.
Exactly. I would gladly go back to Adobe if they get some of their stuff figured out, have a new system. I think the applications are just too old and the computers are just too new. So there's a disconnect there. But Please, if you fix your stuff, that's what I'm saying. Do right by me, I'll do right by you. All right. Another beef.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that I beefed with you for a second, but we squashed that pretty quickly. So moving on. What were we gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say I forgot to mention about how our sort of art went. You know, I already mentioned how I went from doing the animation and still watching movies a lot, to post Car Crash to doing more, you know, exploration of the film, but like the theater world. I always loved music, but like for some reason after that, I became so much more into music. Like I think it's because it was like very relaxing for me to be able to like focus on like, you know, music and like instrumentals and like the vocals and the writing. It has a very encompassing. It was like a very relaxing thing to me, and like being able just to put my AirPods in and focus on something else when I would be like worrying a lot of the time was like super important. I think I talked last episode about how sometimes then you put your AirPods in a little too long and you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta like have like interact. I gotta hear nature. I gotta have like I gotta have like human interaction. But all these things in moderation, you know what I'm saying? That was sort of my artistic journey, and then that's what led to the song "Diaries of a Theater Boy" being dropped in February.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Go check it out. Diaries of a Theater Boy. There's also another song on SoundCloud. I believe it is called. Well, what was it called? I forgot it now.
Let's see if you can remember it.
You've been working on so much.
I can give you a hint.
Seasons.
Seasons.
Seasons. Go check out Seasons on SoundCloud. We dropped a lot of great music in the past year, actually. So, and we're still working on music too. It's not like, I mean, I know I'm doing some other things now and you're doing other things now, but we are still working on music as we speak.
Yeah, go check out Leaving Saturn. It's on everywhere. So Lil Go
check out Leaving Saturn, like Midpoint, everything.
These feel like so it feels like so long ago that we made that song. I feel like so much has happened since then. But you know, when I was able to give you that verse on Leaving Saturn, that was our music, like our hefty music air to Diaries, where that was Valentine's Day that we dropped that. And then since then, yeah, that was like most of the LA journey, honestly. I feel like obviously there was
we were mostly musicians at the time of doing Starbound. I mean, given we were watching a lot of movies too. I feel like we watched a movie a week. There were spans of time where we were watching at least one movie a week, sometimes two movies a week. I remember we went on our James Bond era.
Like, that was episode 2.
We saw all the Daniel Craig James Bond films. That was episode 2.
Dude, there was a time where I didn't watch like any movies for like a few months, and it was because I think I just had movie exhaustion. Like I'd studied it for 4 years. I'm very familiar with it. And that when I started really getting into music, I just like was only listening to songs for most of the day. I was like, I don't have time to listen to a movie. A song's 4 minutes. A movie's like an hour and a half. And like that's like a lot of people I've met that don't watch very many movies. I still love movies. It was just like, you know how last time you said that you've been listening to a lot less music recently?
Yeah.
You can get sick of any art form. You can get sick of any art form. You can get sick of the podcast. You can get sick. You can get sick of podcasts. Sometimes I have months where I listen to podcasts.
I hope you don't get sick of the podcast.
And then months that I don't listen to podcasts at all. It's just like that's how it be. Your consumption be different, whether it be based on personal life circumstances, like where you usually listen to said art form you no longer have access to. Say your TV breaks down, how many movies are you going to watch? Say your AirPods break down, how many songs are you going to listen to?
How many songs? Yeah.
You know, that's the other thing. I didn't have my car to listen to songs in. So that was my only way to listen to like songs while like moving. And so, that's what led to my skateboard stories where I would like be listening to my music while I was skateboarding, because that's my new form of listening to music in the car. And then I would like post the photos of like, you know, where I was going along with the music I was listening to and all that stuff, which that's one of my favorite things that I created. This is like the later half that was one of my favorite things that I created while I was in Los Angeles. And that went all the way up to like May 30th, I think, because I like officially kind of, well, I came back May 31st. And then I went back to LA later to like move all my stuff back. But I feel like the spiritual end to my time in LA was like the end of May. It was actually before I knew that I was moving back, but that's why it was the spiritual end. Like when I went back after that, I knew I was officially moving back. So it felt more so like a closing of the chapter rather than like the end of me just like living there. Does that make sense? Like I knew it was the tail end post May.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like something was ending. It was more like this is the story coming to its full fruition.
Yeah.
You know, in these last chapters. So no, I feel that.
Did we even like
I feel that.
Yeah, it was like I did like, so if I have to like summarize like what art I did while I was out there, it's like animation, music, skateboard stories, TikToks, because again, you have like no
Acting.
money to film anywhere because it's so expensive and all this stuff. Yeah, acting. Yeah, and so I feel like I got like so many different art forms out, which that's what I'm so grateful for that I got to do that. It really helped me learn what I wanted to do, and I really am happy with a lot of the stuff. Obviously, I'm more proud of some things than other things, but that's what, you know, you're always going to look back at your project with a critical eye and be your harshest critic. But now I've learned to try.
I've grown from that. I've become a life critic sometimes now, which is really shitty of me. But I'll look back on some decisions I made in life, and I was like, is that the right decision? You know?
Yeah, of course.
It's hard. You are your worst critic.
You are your worst critic. And here's the thing, now throughout going through all of that, I feel like I have a much more open mind towards other people's art. Like if at first I'm like, I don't know if I like this, I'll usually give it a chance and be like, okay, this might not be my cup of tea, but I can see the value in it. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like everybody can take something away from something.
Oh, yes. I think that's the whole point of art. And that's why, like, I don't know, I feel Leaving Saturn is one of the greatest art pieces I've ever made, because I feel like with any other piece of art I made before that, it was made with this preconceived ideas of what art should be. It was structured. It was objective. Leaving Saturn is one of the first times I made art that was internally subjective. That was just based on just like raw, just like feeling. And I'm starting to place that more into all my art ventures. Like I'm a different artist now. I was not an emotional artist before. I was more of I want to say an entertainment artist, but I don't know. I would just make stuff that I thought was cool. But now I'm making stuff that I thought was cool and I personally connect with. So
yeah,
you know, it's all about that. You know, as an artist, being an artist is like, it's like working out. It develops over time. It changes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The weight you can handle before is not the weight you can handle now. And the art you were making back then is not necessarily the art that you're making now, you know? So, yeah. Speaking of just one last beef I wanted to mention, the government. Specifically, the government in terms of social services. For example, Social Security, national security, who else is in there? Immigration. All y'all gave me a very hard time even before we started the podcast. Like
throughout the whole year, that was just like another beef. Just like
if you know anybody that has to deal with, that was my arch nemesis for a period of time. It's funny because I love this country, but man, the government like hated me for some reason. They had so much beef with me, just not giving me what they would give anybody else. So, and that's not even true. The government is a hassle to work with. And I know everyone kind of understands that on like a fundamental level, that dealing with the government in terms of either applying for certain statuses or trying to get certain benefits, you know, everyone knows the government is kind of a hassle. But man, if you know anybody that like has to deal with the government because they're applying for something or whatever, give them a hug, dude. It's hard. It is tough. It's emotionally like just draining and also financially draining, because usually what happens is the government will make a mistake and then they want you to pay them $300 to fix it. That's how the system works in America. It's really all money based. So, but it's behind me. Me and the government, we settled our differences. You know what I mean? We straight me services. It's like, all right, we are all in agreement on who I am and what they should and should not give me. And so, we settled that. So we're good now. But man, that was my arch nemesis for like years.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, it really felt
I need a new enemy.
I feel like I'm excited at this time in life because things are starting to get really busy for me here, which I like staying busy, and things are starting to get really busy for you there. But I feel like we have tackled and hopefully conquered, knock on wood. Obviously some things come back here and there, many of our demons over the past year, and really have ended up in a pretty solid place. And that's all we can ask for, right? To be doing better now than
hey, you know what?
at some other point.
We did it together. We did it
together forever, like shama lama 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 ding da ding da bop.
Let that be a powerful message for y'all, that if you're struggling alone, find a friend, man. Connect with somebody, because I think I wouldn't. There's a lot of stuff back there. I don't know if I could have gone through that without you being there.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Same with me. And I think sometimes when I had the apartment to myself, like being in solitude for an extended period of time in like an apartment in the big city, dude, it kind of makes you like lose your mind. I feel like you're just like what? But it's an experience everybody should have, I think, at least like once, at least for a little bit of time.
It's part of the growing process. That's the thing about like adulting. There's no barriers. There's no one coming to come and like save you from your situation. You just have to be faced with an issue and then deal with it. The other day, I fixed like the garbage disposal and the toilet by myself. And dude, some of it was gross, man. I'm not gonna lie. There were things I thought I would never be able to like mentally be able to go through, because it just feels so disgusting. But I did it, you know what I mean? And now I feel like I could do it 3 times over. Like it's all part of that adulting process, because it's not just that, right? There's also bills, career, so many different priorities in the adulting world. And truth is, you just got to face those challenges as they come.
I agree.
I mean, there's no easy mode when you start.
Yeah.
Wow, it's like that game Dark Souls.
Oh, Jay plays that.
You know that video game? Yeah, so basically the whole thing about it is that it's just super difficult, and you just have to learn how to get better at the game to beat it. And that's what adulting is. It's difficult from the jump, bro. If there's anyone watching this and you're not an adult yet, it's hard. It's like from the jump, it's hard, and there's no easy mode to it. But you will get better at the game.
You can do it. It's difficult.
I'm better at the game.
I would say I had some of my lowest lows while in LA, and some of my highest highs. But you can say that about every year. You're gonna have lows, you're gonna have highs. Just you got to find the balance. You gotta really find a system that works for you, and you can do it.
How did you do that?
Do what?
I'm like so flabbergasted. Do that shit again. Damn. Shit's clean.
I also started dancing a lot when I was in LA. I found a new passion for dancing, so I love dancing. Yeah.
He's like Chris Breezy with the dance moves now. You go crazy with it.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Sean. Oh, that looked pretty good right there. I saw you with that.
Really?
You did that some fancy shoulder stuff. I'm like,
okay. I got some moves too. I got some moves too. Speaking of moves, I just want to give a special shout out. Yesterday was Lauren's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Lauren.
I have to go. I don't know when this is going to come up per se, but she's having a birthday party tonight that I'm going to. Happy birthday, Lauren. You're awesome. We love you. She's a very interesting supporting character, I feel like, in our storyline of this past year. So shout out to you.
Thank you for all the adventures,
I'll be
Lauren.
excited
We had
to see
many
you
good
later.
trips. We had a Seattle Thanksgiving trip. That was the first.
Yeah, I saw the entire West Coast.
Mm-hmm. We saw the
I
Twilight.
haven't even seen the whole East Coast yet.
We did it. We did it
Yeah.
on the go, Starbound. While doing that,
We did do it on the go Starbound.
It's before our Seattle review episode. It's like right before that one. We reviewed Seattle when we got back home, aka Los Angeles. But the episode before was when
Didn't we
were
see
in
like a
Oregon.
tornado of fire on our way back?
That was crazy. I think we talked about this already, but yeah, we right between Washington and Oregon, there was like a gas station and like a fire like right next to it.
Yeah,
It was
I
nuts.
remember that. Dude, we've had some whack adventures. Like stuff that you're just like,
it's a simple.
What? Huh?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah,
man.
there are some things I'm like, I'm very surprised I walked out unscathed on the other side. Like there are like multiple. But
there are moments where it's like I should be dead. Like,
hey, man.
That should have been it for me.
I'm very thankful for my time and experiences, and I'm very happy with how things are going. So it's always good to stay grateful and appreciate what you have. You know what I'm saying? I'm very thankful.
Be very thankful. On that note, we should probably start wrapping it up a little bit.
Yeah, how long has this episode been so far?
I'm gonna guess if you subtract maybe like 5-10 minutes out the beginning, maybe an hour 20.
Yeah, that seems like it's been a good amount of time.
Film
reflected on. Is there anything?
Maybe an hour 20.
Anything else you want to add?
Anything else I want to add?
Next projects maybe coming up.
We had some great guest stars over the past year. Harry, Jacob, Justice, just to name a few. And yeah, this podcast has been great, I guess. I love this podcast. I remember when we started, I was worried. I was like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to keep this going, because imagine doing a new episode every week for an hour. That seems crazy. But I mean, give or take some weeks where we couldn't, but it's because we couldn't. It wasn't like we just didn't want to. We really fought to do this every single week consistently. And we had fun doing it. Like we really did. I didn't really picture what it would look like 50 episodes, 40 episodes out, but I felt like, okay, we need to be able to get to that point. And
here we are, 45 out of 52.
We're getting there, man.
45 out of 52. That's
45 out of 52.
Like, so, as far as a year
goes. Yeah, it's an impressive feat. I don't know anyone that could have even done this. Most podcasts I know, it's like 3 episodes out, dude, done. 8 max.
In the art, I didn't even say Starbound. I didn't even say like podcasting. I forgot to like mention this. Starbound has been a huge thing that we've also done for the whole year. And so that involves all the promotion of it, the photoshopping, the clip selecting, the advertising,
learning how the algorithms on YouTube work. Like I learned a lot about just how podcasting works. The tech, trying to figure out the audio and the mic setup with the camera setup and everything. Like this has been such I don't know. This is an interesting journey. It's definitely one of my favorite arts, I would say now, because I'm not gonna lie, like even the way that we talk about different topics in these later episodes is different from the way we would talk about topics in our first 5 episodes. It's just we're just wildly different podcasters now.
Again, thank you very much for listening. It means a lot. It's really nice when people come up and tell me that they've listened and checked it out. I hope that we've been a good source of entertainment for the past year. And
I love when we say some controversial shit and then somebody wants to come up and be like, yo, why the fuck did you say that? I love that shit. It happened to me at least 3 times. Motherfucker would come up and be like, yo. So speaking on this topic on the podcast, that's very interesting. I would like to share my thoughts on this. And it's like, All right. Like, thank you. Like, I appreciate the fact that we talk about shit that's so interesting that it gets other people talking about shit in their day-to-day lives. You know what I mean? They formed an opinion and they came to us about it and was like, yo, that's like that's so interesting what you said. Like, I want to add my own takes on that. It's so cool.
How do
So
you
cool.
measure a year? In sunsets, in midnights, in
revolutions
something else,
around the
and
sun.
in cups of coffee. What'd you say?
That last one's interesting. I said revolutions around the sun. What do you
Yeah,
mean cups
yeah.
of coffee?
I'm just quoting Rent, aka, you know.
Word. I missed it. I had a feeling. I was like, this feels familiar, but then the cups of coffee threw me off.
Yeah, I can't remember the fourth one. It's like in sunsets, in midnights, in I want to say it's like daylights, but no, because we already say sunset. Oh, maybe it is daylights. Anyway,
this has been episode, what is this, 45?
45.
45? I used to know this kid, and there was this really early morning breakfast that we all had to go to, and so his mom would be like, yeah, we need to wake up at 8:45 to go to this breakfast, and he was like, 8:45? He was just so pissed off, but it was just so iconic the way he said that. So welcome to episode 45 of the podcast. We will have a few more after this. It's been a whole year, so that's been insane. I'm glad that we've been able to do this for a year, that you've been on this journey with us for an entire year. That's insane. I don't know how y'all did that, but hang in there. And I guess we'll catch you on the next episode.
Till next time, Starbound 52 is on the come up, but this is Starbound.
I was like, it's on the, like, I can see it, bro. I can see the last episode coming. Like the same way I was talking about J. Cole earlier this episode about like the fall off and how he can see his own retirement coming. I can see the end coming, and it's getting closer literally every episode. So anyway, I've been your host, King Kaijo.
And Cough Drippy.
And I'll catch you on that next episode or something, man. We got to get out of here. All right. 2 Chains.
Peace.
All right, ready? We got to same time.
Yeah.
Same time.
Give me the iCarly countdown.
All right. In 5, 4, 3, 2.